All right, what's up, guys? So today I want to give my initial thoughts on the TRX-4M. This truck just released a couple days ago, and I picked up two of them yesterday. So I haven't really had a whole lot of time to drive this truck yet, which is why this is not a review. It's a initial thoughts. But I picked up two of these just because I wanted to give you the differences, be able to show you the differences between the Defender and the Bronco. And I would also like to do two different upgrade paths with both of these vehicles. I want to kind of stick to more cosmetic upgrades on the Defender and just make it look really good. And then for the Bronco, I'd like to make it perform really well. So let's talk about what's included in the box. The transmitter is your basic Traxxas 2.4 gigahertz transmitter that's included with all the RTR vehicles. Nothing special. One thing I was a little disappointed about was there's no toggle switch on here to switch the driving modes because there's three different driving modes. But turns out you have to swap the driving modes by pressing a button on the ESC. So little disappointed personally, but I mean, what can you expect for 150 bucks? The battery that's included is a 2S 750 milliamp hour LiPo battery. The charger that's included, honestly, not that bad. I've used it 3 times and it hasn't broke. Compared to the axial charger, it seems like a decent little thing. Like, feels quality in the hands, doesn't feel like it's gonna fall apart. It took about 40 minutes to charge the battery out of the box, so it was pretty quick. Also, your basic manual and a couple tools to remove the wheels, and 2 Allen wrenches and some shock spacers. The wheel tool is really crappy. You'll see when you try to use it, the long edges rub on the tires, making it really hard to turn. So you'll probably get pissed off trying to use this thing. So I recommend buying something else to use if you don't have one already. The first thing that I noticed when pulling these trucks out of the box was the hard bodies and just how good they look. Like, the detail on these were just mind blowing to me, and maybe it's because I've never owned a hard bodied RC, but I was just so surprised at how good they look. And when I took the bodies off, I was like, they don't weigh that much more, so I'm pretty satisfied with these so far. We'll have to see once I get it on the trail, see how the weight of the body affects the performance, but I don't think it's going to be that big of an issue, especially with this Defender. I just think it looks so good with all these hard plastic components that they attach to it. Just adds so much detail and scale look. The back, you got the jerry cans on the back with the jack, the snorkel, the mirrors, just everything about these bodies looks so good. So I'm a fan. I wasn't in the beginning, but I'm converted, at least for this truck. Another thing that I knew I was really going to like is the latching mechanism on these trucks. You just pull 2 tabs on each end right here, and the body pops right off. And to put it back on, just push down and it latches. Super easy. You don't have to deal with body pins, Velcro, anything like that. One thing I should have showed you when I had these the body off is, and I know they're doing this just to sell more Traxxas parts, but the ability to upgrade the lights. So the taillights have it too, already integrated into the body. So that way, if you buy the upgraded LEDs, it's just plug and play. Like, you don't have to cut the Lexan, you don't have to cut Lexan, cut anything, drill anything. It's just boom, you plug them in and it's ready to go. I think that's really cool. And also, both trucks have this, and it's something that someone on my previous TRX-4M video was talking about, is about how they were excited for the hard bodies, but they were disappointed that there was no interior. And I feel like a lot of people who care about like the looks of the truck are going to want an interior. And the good news is that it looks like Traxxas plans on releasing an aftermarket interior upgrade, because there's these notches on both versions of the truck that look like they're meant to receive an interior piece. So maybe I'm wrong about what those are meant for, but that's what it looks like to me. Go ahead and comment if you know otherwise. But for those of you who care about that, it looks like that should be a future upgrade you can do. The truck has damped shocks, which is pretty cool. One thing I did notice was that when you let the truck sit for a while, the shocks seize up, and it's a surprising amount. Like the amount you have to push down to get them to cycle is quite a bit. And I don't think it's going to be an issue when actually driving the truck, because once you push it down once, it, as you can see, it just cycles like normal. But I was just surprised at how much they seized up. We'll have to see if I run into any issues when actually driving the truck. Speaking of the shocks, like I said, they're damped, so they're going to perform a lot better than, for example, the SCX24's non-damped shocks that just jiggle everywhere when you drive it. So it's going to look better on the trail. You're not going to have the body that's shaking everywhere every time you go over a bump, and it's going to perform better, which is cool. The one downside to these is that they're very big. Like, they're not very scale looking, but like, as you can see, they're blacked out, very hard to see. You're not really ever going to notice them. So I'd rather have shocks that perform better and look worse and look less scale, as opposed to what the Axial has out of the box. It's so nice to get those damp shocks. I'm really pumped about that. So one of the differences between these two trucks is the tires. The first truck that I unboxed was the Bronco. I was surprised at how good the tires felt out of the box on this truck. The sidewalls do feel stiff, but the compound feels good, feels soft, and they feel thin, so they feel like they're gonna, contour over rocks very well, and the tread pattern seems decent. So I was like, dang, for an RTR, these tires feel like they're gonna perform decently well. But then I pulled this truck out of the box, and I was even more impressed because, like, these sidewalls, you can probably see on the video, they're just even softer, and the tread pattern looks better. I'm honestly like tempted, like, if these perform as well as I think they're going to, then I might just leave these on the truck for a while, because they look pretty good too. They look nice and aggressive. They feel like they're going to perform well, so we'll have to see. Another difference between the two trucks is the length of the body and how far the bumpers overhang. And you can see a little bit better when you remove the bodies, but basically, I'll just give you a quick view here. You can kind of see how far back this bumper sticks out on this Defender compared to on the Bronco. Not nearly as much. So that's where that difference in approach and departure angles comes from. All right, with the body off, this is something I could tell before I even got the truck in hand, but the way that Traxxas has the electronics laid out on this chassis, I feel like is just so well thought out. It doesn't feel lazy like it did to me with the Axial SCX24. Like, to me, there's nothing here that really jumps out as far as mods go to make the electronics sit lower to improve the center of gravity. Like with Axial SCX24, it just seemed almost lazy to me, to where I was able to, upgrade, reduce the center of gravity for free just by like modifying the battery tray. But here, the battery's mounted as low as it can go on the chassis. It's the heaviest component, so it should be. They got that right. The servo mounted directly to the axle isn't ideal as far as looks go. It shouldn't affect the performance at all, and it's something that you expect out of this scale. So I'm not disappointed about that. Another thing that I noticed when I pulled these out of the box is how flexible and flimsy these links are, and you really notice the ones in the rear just because they're longer. So I feel like a lot of people want to upgrade those straight out of the box. It shouldn't be that big of an issue as far as performance goes, just because it's such a small vehicle. But that's probably something I'll even upgrade. To sum up the differences between these two, basically, in my opinion, it's going to come down to looks. Yeah, this one's going to perform a little bit better, so I would recommend for you just to buy the one that you think looks better. I'll compare the Bronco to the SCX24. just so you can kind of get an understanding of how much bigger the TRX-4M is. You know, they're different scales, so obviously it's going to be bigger, but that kind of gives you an idea. One cool thing about the TRX-4M is that they made it so it was compatible with SCX24 wheels. So that's really cool because there's already a ton of aftermarket options for the SCX24. I did put these on the Bronco and they fit just fine, but the tires are just way too small. The scale is way off and it just looks silly, to be honest. So if you're going to use SCX24 tires, then I would recommend going with as big as you can get. Not as big as you can get, but on the bigger end. Because, I mean, even these RC four-wheel drive tires, they're, I would say, mid-size, and they still looked tiny on this truck. So I would get some bigger tires if you're going to use SCX24 tires. So the last thing I want to talk about is the value, and not to beat a dead horse because everyone's talked about this already, but obviously these things are a really great value for $150. You get a bigger scale truck, you get a hard body that looks amazing, you get decent tires out of the box, you get damped shocks, waterproof electronics. Like, you just get so much more for your money than what you do with the SCX24. And I mean, even with some of the versions of the SCX24 costing more, it's ridiculous to me. It kind of makes me wonder how they're making money on these trucks, Traxxas. It also makes me wonder if there's another motive besides making money. Like, maybe they're doing this to kind of crush the competition. Who knows? But either way, I recommend buying one of these if you've got an extra $150 laying around, just because they're a good value for the money. So, like I said, this is not a full review. I might do a full review in the future. We'll have to see. There's probably going to be plenty of them out there. I'm probably going to focus more on upgrading parts and doing tutorials and reviews on the parts and upgrades as they release. So if you're interested in that kind of content, then stay tuned, and thank you for watching.